yourself ready for a trip through McDonaldland.
McDonald's has had an extensive history of commercials and promotions with which they attempted to convince the masses that their food was desirable. They used all sorts of different characters and wacky situations to appeal to children, so they would ask their parents to take them to McDonald's. Let me tell you, it worked. In fact, the list of characters is so extensive that I can't fit anything but just character info into a 10-minute slot. So without further ado, let's take a look at the Residents of McDonaldLand. Here is how I've compiled these characters into 4 main categories. We have our main heroes, main villains, side characters, and brief appearances. So let's start with our protagonists.
Who's the McFriendliest fellow in town?
It's everyone's favorite hamburger clown. No other exists. Ronald McDonald. Beginning as a disturbing clown, covered in McDonald's food items, Ronald evolved quickly to the iconic look we know today. He is incredibly clever, as shown by his ability to invent machines and sentient robots, as well as outsmart most other characters, if not all of them. He has a multitude of magical abilities, including summoning the moon and stars using a magic wand, instantly vaporizing tires with hand beam, defying the laws of physics, using telepathy, levitating, instantly teleporting, and breaking the fourth wall. He also owns multiple forms of transportation, such as a time-traveling shoe car, a flying hamburger car, and a gravity-defying bike. Ronald is powerful, but also fun-loving and kind to those around him. He often shares his McDonald's food, even with the villains. Next up, we have the Purple Blob, who is in a commercial with Donald Trump.
Together, Grimace, we could own this town.
Early in the series, he was a 4-armed menace who stole shakes and cups, known as Grimace, the E standing for evil. However, this was quickly changed. He lost his evil, as well as 2 of his 4 arms. Grimace acts as the mascot for milkshakes and is also a loyal companion of Ronald's. Grimace is also the only character confirmed to have members of their family shown. Birdie the Early Bird is the last of the future main casts to appear in McDonald's commercials. In her first appearance, she flies in and crashes nearby Ronald's bed in the forest to wake him up for some McDonald's breakfast. Only successful when she starts talking about the menu. Birdie appears in future commercials as a friend of Ronald alongside Grimace and Hamburglar. She also learns to fly in a future commercial, implying some sort of brain damage from the crash in her debut. Up next is the subject of many popular video essays.
It's MacTonight.
MacTonight is the only character to never appear with other McDonaldland characters, having his own standalone ad campaign. In early commercials, he performed with a piano in the sky at nighttime, telling the world about McDonald's nighttime deals. He also can manifest McDonald's meals in windowsills at nighttime. MacTonight is later considered to be a phenomenal occurrence by an organization called the Atmospheric Institute, and convinces the employees there to go to McDonald's instead of researching him. Now we have the McNugget Buddies, who are life-sized puppets that like to dip themselves in barbecue sauce. They have a generally goofy and childlike demeanor, oftentimes annoying Ronald McDonald with their antics. They wear many different outfits, which is the main gimmick of their Happy Meal toys. They are confirmed to age throughout life, meaning they are being raised from birth to be eaten at a young age and trained to be dipped in barbecue sauce. Frankly, I find it disturbing that these McNuggets are being raised from a young age with hopes and dreams to be dipped in barbecue sauce and eaten. Moving on to a human being, we have the Professor. Described as a mad scientist, he makes inventions that generally have a fatal flaw that Ronald fixes for him. This ability to invent impossible gadgets raised him to a higher level of intelligence than most McDonaldland residents, with the exception of Ronald, whose inventions actually work.
I just invented this.
Anyways, time for more food. Mayor McCheese is a giant McCheese man with a top hat and mayor's suit. He is the, at least twice, elected mayor of McDonaldland, and also the political puppet of Ronald McDonald.
Cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers, yeah!
He's not very bright himself. He's more lovably goofy. He's also the victim of a lawsuit. Sid and Marty Krofft Television Productions Inc. versus McDonald's Corp. was a lawsuit which resulted in the end of McDonaldland commercials due to many similarities between McDonaldland and HR Pufnstuf. Along with the end of McDonaldland, Mayor McCheese, Officer Big Mac, the Professor, and Captain Crook were all canned as characters for their similarities to HR Pufnstuf characters, the mayor being notable among these for his similarity to HR Pufnstuf's titular character. Up next is confirmed cannibal Officer Big Mac. I must disclaim, I do not endorse the actions of this character in eating his kin. Sickening. Officer Big Mac is a large Big Mac man similar to Mayor McCheese, but in a police officer suit and with a deep voice. Despite his cannibalism, he is the foremost law enforcer of McDonaldland. He has a large cage that he used to catch the Hamburglar, which only worked with help from Ronald, who actually decided to put bait in the trap. Most of his time is spent, often unsuccessfully, chasing the villains of McDonaldland. The Hamburglar is the main villain of McDonaldland, whose main aim is to steal McDonald's menu items, notably hamburgers. He can disguise himself as characters such as the lone jogger, fooling even the likes of Ronald. Ronald is confirmed to have stress dreams of the Hamburglar actually accomplishing his goal of stealing every hamburger. He later takes on a kinder demeanor, becoming one of the main 4 characters in later commercials, only stealing occasionally. He can also instantly steal anything in front of him. Next up is a character that Ronald truly fears. The Goblins, later known as the Fry Kids to be more kid-friendly, have the ability to know where fries are simply by their mention. They can only be appeased by successfully stealing fries or being taken to McDonald's for fries. In their commercials, Ronald runs from them in order to protect his fries until he can reach a McDonald's so that they may abandon their chase. Finally, we have the most incompetent of the villains, Captain Crook. Captain Crook's main aim is to steal Filet-O-Fishes. Captain Crook is so bad at doing this that Ronald considers him to be a non-issue. Unlike the Hamburglar and Goblins, he has never been successful in crime. He instead only gets his Filet-O-Fishes when Ronald takes pity on him and gives him one. He also apparently didn't know how to smile until he was offered a cheeseburger by Ronald to do so. Next up, we have the characters that are not prominent enough to be main heroes or villains, but are just prominent enough to be side characters. First up, we have a group I don't have much to say about. The various children that always appear in McDonald's commercials. They mainly just help Ronald and eat McDonald's with him. As to where they are from and if they will come back to their homes, I don't know. But based on one commercial in which Ronald convinces a child not to run away to McDonaldland, these children are likely McDonaldland residents themselves or will return home.
Hey, when you're in McDonaldland, who's gonna make the decorations for your dad's birthday party? Who's gonna be the snowflake in the school play?
Ronald.
Who's gonna feed Mr. Goldfish?
Hey, Ronald, I think I hear my mom calling me.
Oh, okay. Bye, Lindsay.
None of these children that are named reoccur often enough to be distinct, except one. Billy. Described as Ronald's pal, Billy appears in commercials with Captain Crook advertising Filet-O-Fish sandwiches. He fishes with Ronald and refuses to be robbed by Captain Crook. He later appears to send a message in a bottle to Captain Crook and Ronald, saying that he is stuck on an island with no Filet-O-Fish sandwiches, and Ronald summons the captain's boat to rescue him and take him to McDonald's. Next, the narrator introduces most commercials, telling the premise. He sometimes interjects to emphasize a point or ask, "Will Ronald be able to do it?"
Is this goodbye French fries? Will Ronald think of a way out?
In the middle of a commercial. There's not much else to say about the narrator. McDonaldland flora is woven within the geography of McDonaldland, thus appearing more than other sentient objects of their status. There are apple pie trees, French fry plants, a hamburger patch, and cherry pie trees, not to mention the potential living status of other geographic locations, such as Steak Shake Mountain and Filet-O-Fish Lake. Likely from the hamburger patch Our next character, the Hamburger Puppets, appear in many commercials as a singing crew and overall companions to Ronald. They are somewhat like a prototype version of the McNugget Buddies in demeanor and how they always sing in a group. Also, in Australia, they have vampire teeth. Sentient trash cans appear a bit too often in McDonald's commercials for my liking, especially when they are singing.
It's a special little treat when we get to eat the paper. Yes, indeed.
They take many forms, but one thing is consistent. They love to eat trash and they hate littering. A pessimistic vulture appears in later commercials, not offering much except for downer comments. He does allow Ronald to take a feather from him so that Grimace can get his voice back on one occasion, but this was just due to his indifference. He's not a very interesting character, but still appears enough to warrant side character status. Ronald McDonald has the ability to put his fingers in an arch shape to manifest golden arches. At first when I saw this, I thought it was simply another part of his magic. However, this all changed when I saw the commercial, Mystery of the Lost Arch. In this commercial, the golden arches are sentient and have kids. At the end of the commercial, Ronald picks up the arches saying, "I missed you," and does the finger magic thing, confirming that every time he does this, he is summoning this sentient being. The Happy Meal gang is a living Happy Meal that often appears with the McNugget Buddies. They consist of a small cup, hamburger, and fries. Like the McNugget Buddies, they offer a level of intrigue as to the morality of them being eaten. It's strange that these commercials didn't include the box as a character. At least, not for a while. Happy is a living Happy Meal that tried to cash in on the popularity of the Minions. Considered to be creepy by many consumers, this unpopular character is still somehow around at McDonald's locations. Some trace their origins back to 2009 with testing in France. However, I say that this stems back to a couple of Happy Meal box characters that appeared a long time before this time. These right here are the real origins of Happy, and I am sad that we ended up with this abomination. Not much time is left for this video, so now is the brief appearance lightning round. To clarify, brief appearances here means that these characters only appeared in one commercial or made very small appearances in multiple commercials. The nutrients appear in one commercial in a band with Ronald McDonald as some sort of PSA. We have the vitamins B, C, and D, protein, iron, and calcium. A janitor singing crew appears in a single McDonald's commercial that exclusively shows how clean Ronald McDonald's locations are. McDonald's employees appear in a couple of commercials to either herald the appearance of Ronald McDonald or convince the entire town to come to McDonald's. Uncle O'Grimacy is Grimace's Irish green uncle who advertises Shamrock Shakes. Echo Canyon is technically a character because when Ronald asks if Grimace is there, it responds, Eyes of Caramel Cave appear in one commercial where a pair of floating eyes appear with Ronald and Grimace in Caramel Cave, which is in Sundaeland, and then return with them to McDonald's. A jack-o'-lantern appears in a Halloween commercial to tell the viewer about Halloween gift certificates. There are many sentient objects, including laughing/sentient literal food, a sentient clock, sentient vegetables, a sentient tree, sentient soap, a sentient toothpaste, sentient toothbrush, sentient dance chart, sentient movie kit, sentient stop sign, a literal rock band, sentient alarm clock, sentient fans, and a sentient telephone. Sentient fallen stars also appear, so Ronald can literally throw them back into the sky in two separate commercials. A British monkey appears in one commercial to tell the viewer about the McDonald's Safari Adventure Meal.
So don't monkey around, old chap.
Wally the Robot is a sentient robot built by Ronald McDonald who learned what McDonald's was and enjoyed eating in various non-conventional ways. Animated food appears in a couple of commercials that use a different overall format. These same anime commercials include a fisherman character and a character named Taffy. The Curious Snowman appears in one commercial set during the summer to be sent to a winter land by Ronald through a Golden Arches gateway. As to why he's called Curious, I don't know why. Cosmic is an alien who has a spaceship suit which allows him to fly, stick his head in like a turtle, and be magnetized. Australian space hamburgers appear in one commercial where they sing with Ronald McDonald. Like other Australian hamburgers, they have vampire teeth. The sun, moon, stars, and Saturn appear in an Australian commercial in which Ronald calls the sun on the telephone, convinces him to set, and then summons the moon, stars, and Saturn with a magic wand, all to make it dinner time early so they can go to McDonald's. Magical red shoes appear in a few commercials to make quick appearances in a closet or sing and dance around and performed by children. Fairy tale characters appear in one commercial where Grimace and Ronald are sucked into a fairy tale book. Mario appears in one commercial as the only character completely from another IP to interact with Ronald McDonald and friends directly. Changeables are Happy Meal Transformers that appear in one commercial advertising themselves as a Happy Meal toy. The Rockin' Hotcakes are a trio that appear in one commercial to advertise hotcakes. The Bird Choir, led by Ronald McDonald, appears in one commercial to make a humming choir. A dragon appears in 2 total commercials, once to steal Grimace's voice because he wanted a deeper one, and the other is just to kind of be there. Bernice is described by the McDonald's cast as something terrible and sits on a TV in commercial, and in another they eat a script. Tooth Fairy appears in one commercial to explain how Ronald McDonald got his big red shoes. She gave them to him. The commercial also shows how he had magic and was a clown since he was a child. Giant McNuggets are... Let's move on. I Am Hungry appears in 2 commercials as the self-proclaimed vice president of snacking tries to take Ronald's food, ultimately getting fed a cheeseburger and being blown into the sky. Fry Sniffers appear in 2 commercials as aliens who can sniff fries from miles away and use a death ray to open roofs of McDonald's locations. Aunt Millie and Aunt Tilly are Grimace's aunts who have a sixth sense for knowing where picnics are happening at all times. A skeleton appears in a Halloween commercial to say the word McDonald's. Mr. Muscle appears in one of the first McDonald's commercials, have paint dropped on him by Ronald, and is never seen again. And finally, Donald Trump appears in one commercial to conspire with Grimace. That's that. So, if you learned anything today, it should be that you should never go down the McDonald's rabbit hole. Thank you for watching.
Ta-ta.